What's up guys, Jiving back with another video. Today's video is going to be talking about a restaurant I used to work in. I worked there for 7 years, and this was not your typical restaurant. I got some weird stories from this place. Before we hop into the video, please consider dropping a like, subscribing, and using code JIVINTV in the item shop. Let's hop into it. So this restaurant was enormous. It was located in a tourist town with a lot of weird people coming in. There was a whole entire jazz room and like an outdoors, indoors, upstairs. It was a big place, and my job was being a food runner. Food runners here made decent money, like you made minimum wage on top of tips, which was pretty fire. And it was not as easy as just simply taking out food. Like I had to prepare a lot of the food, and then we would have like 500 orders at once sometimes. Like it would get so busy. So when I say I was a food runner, I mean I was running most of the time. So my first day of work here, I was pretty nervous, not gonna lie, because it was my first time working in a kitchen, and my sister used to work here and she said the kitchen was a wild place and to not let anything they say actually get to me. Well, first day I was 40 minutes late, and when I got there the restaurant was popping. I went whitewater rafting with my family and they said they guaranteed I'd get back plenty early, but we got there 40 minutes late, like come on. They honestly didn't care that much. The managers low-key made fun of me, but that was about it. So one of the managers was this big guy named Ernie, and my sister was always talking about how Ernie was kind of scary. Any chance he got, he would yell at you, make you feel stupid, and like tell you to work harder, yada yada yada, typical manager stuff. When I started working there, that's what I saw him as. You know, he was kind of like the scary manager that you always wanted to, act good in front of so that you could avoid getting yelled at. But with time, over the years that I worked there, he just became like the nicest person, and he just made everybody laugh, which was kind of crazy to see that transition. But like there were hosts, and I would be talking to the hosts sometimes. Like if the kitchen wasn't busy, I would just be out there chilling with them. And he would see me across the restaurant talking to the hosts, and he would yell from all the way across the restaurant in front of all the customers. He'd be like, "Just get her number and get back to the kitchen." Each time I was like, okay, really? He must have done that like 50 or more times while I worked there. So that's Ernie for you, but there were also a bunch of funny people in the kitchen as well. I'm not even gonna have time to explain all of them, but there was this one chef named Abel. Abel was the GOAT. A lot of people thought he was mean, but I love this man. First day that I worked in the kitchen alone as a food runner, I was still relatively new at this point, and he gathered everybody in the kitchen. There must have been like 15 people. And he got them all to gather around me in a circle and like start looking like they were gonna beat me up. And then he pushes through to the center of the circle, stands in front of me and just stares at me for a while. And then he's like, "We are here to beat you up." And then they all like put their fists into their hands and like made a slapping noise and just stared at me. And so I just looked around at them all and I was like, "So what, can I get like a free meal or something? If you're about to kill me, I'd like some food to say goodbye." And then they all started laughing and they all just left. And then Abel went and made me a steak dinner. He didn't make anybody food, but from that moment, this man loved me and he made me free food all the time. He was the GOAT. So a couple of years went by and I was about to leave for school, and I ended up writing him a poem. I don't even remember the full thing, but it was like, "Oh Abel, my Abel," like, "Oh Captain, my Captain." And he hung it up in the kitchen, and I'm pretty sure it probably still hangs there today. Then this one guy named Kyle started working there. This dude literally was like a pirate. Like he had a long goatee and he would just size everybody up. He would like walk right up to you and just like put his chest into you and just stare at you, and he'd be like, "What are you gonna do?" Well, this guy was a bad influence on my boy, Abel. I would always just be messing around and get free food from Abel at the end of the day. And then Kyle said I needed to work for my food. So he'd always set up these obstacles for me. He would be like, "Oh, if you let me slap flour in your face, then sure, I'll give you some free food." I'd always find my way around it for the most part, but it happened like 2 or 3 times. One time when we were cleaning the kitchen, Abel sprayed me with a hose, and then Kyle came up behind and slapped flour in my face. Well, I'll just tell you, I always got them back bad. Nobody else in the kitchen would have done anything back to them, but I was not gonna let them get away with it, even though I got free food out of it. Keep in mind the food here was expensive. Like I would get like a $25 meal for free. But either way, I had to get them back, So like one time I filled up a bucket of water and snuck up behind him and dumped the whole bucket on him. Stuff like that. I tell you, this kitchen was like the weirdest place ever. Most kitchens are like really formal, but this one was just like a clown show, I swear. Another thing we'd do, like there would be a trash can on the other side of the kitchen, and we'd play basketball and we'd like gamble and stuff. That was always a good time. And knowing me, I'm a baller, so I made some good money off that, not gonna lie. We also had mad food fights. Probably every single day. Like the chefs would be throwing food at the people who are making salads like across the kitchen. It would always be a constant food fight. Dude, this place was the best, but I'm happy to be out of there just because it was really hard work. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, we messed around a lot, but that was only to keep us sane because it would get so busy. You don't even understand. Like, the chefs would be cooking like 15 things at once. And sometimes we would be moving so fast, like sprinting food out, trying to prepare everything. Like, food would be flying everywhere because we could not slow down. Yet we would still fall way behind. Like, some people would have to wait 30 minutes for food. This was the busiest place on earth. And because of that, a lot of people were stressed a lot of the times. There was one day it was super busy and one of the chefs was getting all frustrated because something got messed up and he had to redo a burger, and he started yelling at me saying it was my fault, even though it clearly wasn't. And so I talked back to him because I wasn't gonna take that. And he said, "What did you say to me?" And he walked around the entire kitchen, came up to me and like started pushing me, and he slammed me into a steamer like filled with soup and stuff. That was crazy. And so I just walked out of the kitchen and I went outside, and I just was not going to deal with it, even though it was so busy. I said, screw it, and just left. Everybody was on my side though. Like, the word spread throughout the whole entire restaurant that like I walked out, and then the managers came and found me and they were like, "Yo, sorry that happened, yada yada." But me and that chef, we were cool after like a couple weeks. You know, the tension fell, and then we became like, he was like my dad at work. Like, we loved each other. This place was like one big family, and nothing like that ever happened again. Except one other thing happened. This was probably the most disturbing thing that happened throughout the entire time I worked at the restaurant. So I called off work a few times for tournaments. Like, I would just get my shifts covered. It was always okay. Like, as long as if you could find somebody to cover your shifts, it was not a big deal. But one of the managers called me up to the office where like the owner works, and all of the managers were just sitting there, and they started making fun of me for, you know, calling off work for a tournament. And they were like, "You really think that you can make a career out of this?" And they were all just laughing at me, making fun of me and all that. But, you know, look at me now, dude. I go back there and they're like, "Yo, so you're doing the gaming and all that as a full-time job now?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh, well, we miss you here. You were like one of our best workers here, you know, you always got the work done. You knew when it was time to focus up. A lot of the other guys, they don't know when to focus up, you know, they mess around too much. We miss you here, man." And I'm like, "Tough, dude. I'm living out my dream now." And they made fun of me back in the day for that. And that's something I'm never going to forgive them for. If they remember that, I don't know if they were drunk or what, but if they remember that, I hope they feel stupid about it now. You got no idea how good it feels to have proven them wrong. If people ever tell you you can't make it in something and you know that it's a possibility, and if you work hard enough, you'll make it, just say, "Screw it, dude." Don't let people tell you that you're not going to make it, because that happened to me so many times. This was not the only time where people thought it was stupid that I was pursuing this. Just use it as motivation to work even harder. It may put you down in the moment, but if you just use it as fuel and motivation because you want to prove them wrong, that'll help your grind so much. Even today, still some adults, you know, I say that I do this for a job, they look down on me for it. They're like, "Well, I hope you have a backup plan. Don't you think you should still be in school?" And I'm like, "Bro, you don't think I think about this stuff? Like, I'm not just gonna drop out of school and not have a backup plan." And then I'm like, "Don't worry, like, I have tons of plans, yada yada." And they're like, "Well, I hope you have a backup plan. Dropping out of school, ooh, I just don't know. You should probably go back to school, man." Like, shut up. All I'm saying, don't let people ruin your grind, dudes. Just use it as fuel. I got so many more stories from the restaurant. If you guys want to hear them, you know, let me know. I'll do part 2 to this video. If you enjoyed this, be sure to hit that like button, sub if you're new, use code JivenTV in the item shop, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.